everyone, I hope you're okay. Today I'm going to talk to you about my experience in sun bear conservation. In 2016 I got my French baccalaureate and I decided to press pause on studying and to have a gap year. I volunteered for the Sun Bear Outreach Organization for 6 months. 3 months in Paris and 3 months on the field in Indonesia, Borneo. Let me tell you more about it. Sun bear is the smallest of the 8 species of bear in the world. They live here. Every sun bear has a white color on their neck, which is kind of a fingerprint for us. They have a long tongue, long claws, and their diet mainly consists of fruits, bugs, and insects. Although in the wild sun bears are solitary species, in captivity, where there's no competition for food, they can get along really well with some other bears. Unfortunately, the sun bears are listed as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List, and their population is declining. This is mainly due to habitat destruction and wildlife trafficking. The tropical forest of Indonesia has decreased so much in the past decades, mainly for palm oil plantations, soy plantation, and farms. And then on the other side, the sun bears are hunted for their bile for traditional Chinese medicine, but they are also traded in circus, private zoos, and even to be kept as pets. What's really sad is that not many people know about the situation of bears in Southeast Asia, so all the funds for conservation mainly go to orangutan conservation. Sun Bear Outreach was founded in 2014 by Patrick Rouxel. Patrick is a French documentarist, and he made it his life mission to improve the well-being of captive sun bears in Indonesia. So how he does it is that he goes to other NGOs where they have captive sun bears and he offers his help. His goal was to build forest enclosures to bring in-cage bears into a wilder environment. Before I went to Borneo, I worked for 3 months based in Paris, where I did newsletters, I updated the websites, I created social media for the organization, I also filled grant application and created crowdfunding campaign. Where we were, there were 45 bears. 26 were already living in natural environments, although they were lacking some trees. And the remaining 19 were always in cages. Our goal was to improve the well-being of rescued captive sun bears, and we did it in 3 axes. The first one was daily care and enrichment. While the sun bear staff team would clean their cages and feed them every day, we would bring some enrichment. We would put bananas and branches on the top of their cages so that it was harder for them to get to it. We would also give them logs that they love to dig into so that they can find insects, and it just gives them a bit of natural smell in their cages. Enrichment is really important because out of boredom and lack of space, animals in cages will start doing stereotypical behavior, which is when they repeat an unnatural behavior, such as swinging from side to side in the cage, pacing around, and even some would go crazy just because of the lack of space. It was really hard to see. Which brings me to the other axis that we would work on, which is cage improvement. We built new cages where we would put handmade hammock for them where they really like to lay in. And we would put shelves where they could also rest. This was a small improvement, but it was actually really big for some of the bears. The third axis of work was to train in order to release the bears into the forest enclosure. The goal here was to create a social group of 5 bears that get along and train them one by one in the training enclosure so that they get used to getting back to a natural environment, but mostly so that they understand that they should not get close to the electrical wires in the bigger enclosure. You're probably wondering why electrical fencing. If it's just a fence, then they'll learn how to climb over it, but once they're out there, they won't survive because they would be habituated to humans, so they won't be very scared anymore. they won't know how to feed themselves, and also they might get killed by other bears for territorial reasons. We trained them one by one into a smaller enclosure where we could have control over it. We would always be here to make sure that nothing went wrong. The tricky part was to find bears that get along together. So what we did is we would put bears in neighboring cages, and with time they get used to each other's smell, each other's presence, and after a while we would try to open the door in between. Of course we were here to close the door if anything went wrong, and of course we wouldn't try it if they didn't get used to the smell of each other. In the end we managed to create a group of 4 bears. It was actually 2 pairs of bears. It was Apong and Kechil, which was the cutest couple. They would always play and roll around in the enclosure. And then there was Oscar and Arcana, which was similar as well. Just it was basically a double date for them. Once they were all trained one by one in the enclosure, and once they got used to being the 4 of them in the cages together, we opened the enclosure for all of them. And that was the biggest win of my time there, because I could witness all 4 of them playing in the small training enclosure. You can see here they're like playing with each other. Some of the bears relearned their natural behavior. It was such a success. Shortly after that I had to leave, but Patrick sent me some news, and I think about a couple weeks after that, forest enclosure was finished and he released them along with another bear which got along with them really well into the big forest enclosure. So I was really happy that all the work I put in for 3 months resulted in 5 bears being finally back in a wild environment. I'm not gonna lie, it was the hardest 3 months of my life, mainly because of the conditions. It's really tough because there's this constant noise because there's so many bugs in the tropical forest. So it's always day and night, there's always this sound. It's also very, very hot every day, very humid, and then also it's the constant physical work. In the end, I learned so much during this experience, and the work was really hard, yes, but it was so rewarding because it was selfless, and I did it for the bears, and I'm really proud that I did it for the bears because they need this help. This experience also taught me when you're doing work on the field, it's really frustrating to realize that when you might help 5 bears like I did, when I left I think more bears arrived. So that's what's pushed me to do further studies to try and tackle the problem at the roots. I'll talk about this in future videos as well. But I do really think that the work on every scale is necessary because every life matters. I only had to pay for half of my living cost, and Patrick agreed to pay for the rest. And then of course I had to pay for my flight tickets. I know a lot of organizations ask people to pay when they're here to offer their time, experience and knowledge for free, but I'll talk about this in another video. Also, if you are interested to work for Sun Bears with him, I definitely invite you to send him an email. But then if you want to help from home, you can always just donate money, and I can assure you that 100% of all the money you'll give will go for the bears. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please ask me any questions. I'm so willing to answer questions. I'm really happy because since I have launched this conservation journey, I have connected with so many other nature lovers and conservationists, and this is exactly what I wanted. I want to create a community of people helping each other and people being excited for the protection of the earth. So thank you so much, and please share with anyone that would be interested in these subjects. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.